Florida Republican Congressman Michael Waltz of the Armed Services Committee joins us now. He is a National Guard colonel and a former Green Beret commander. Congressman Waltz, you've heard those veiled threats from Vladimir Putin. What do you make of them? How should we respond?
Well, John, frankly, I'm surprised he didn't make them earlier. Many of us have been waiting for this shoe to drop for Putin to start going after these supplies. And I'm surprised he hasn't done so in the hopes that Biden would then find it too escalatory and then back down like he did with the MiGs.
Let me put up on screen the newest $800 million aid package, pardon me, that the U.S. is providing Ukraine. 155 millimeter howitzers and 40,000 rounds. That is a launcher that can do some significant damage. 11 helicopters, Switchblade drones, which have proven very valuable on the battlefield, armored personnel carriers, armored Humvees, and the 500 Javelin anti-tank missiles, which have also been extremely lethal in the hands of the Ukrainians. $800 million worth. Is there more that you feel we should do?
Well, John, I would put this in the too late, better late than never category, but it is certainly needed. It sounds like a lot, but just to put it in perspective, you see 40,000 artillery rounds there, where the Ukrainians are going through 3,000 to 4,000 a day. So that really will only last them a week. Russia has thousands of artillery pieces surrounding cities and pounding them. We're giving the Ukrainians 18. So again, Zelenskyy is absolutely right. They need more. They need more sophisticated weaponry. You still don't see there the anti-ship missiles that they've been asking for since I visited last year. They effectively just used two of their own to sink a key Russian ship, the Moskva. But we need to give them more, John, and we need to be doing it faster, and we should have done it a long time ago.
When Vladimir Putin says, you know, you got to stop sending weapons, I mean, he was warned even before he launched his invasion that if he did invade, the United States would send weapons, we would do whatever we could for Ukraine, and we would reinforce NATO. None of this should be a surprise to him.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't. But at the same time, look at what he experienced in 2014 when he invaded the first time. The Obama administration, with many of the same actors around Obama that are now around Biden in national security circles, literally threw blankets at the problem, threatened a lot of tough talk, but really didn't deliver, particularly the Europeans. So this is a tougher response, I think, than Putin bargained for. But again, it still is a drop in the bucket compared to what Russia is throwing at the Ukrainians right now.
Well, and President Zelenskyy says he's afraid that Russians might throw nuclear weapons at them. Listen.
Yeah.
When they begin to speak about one or another battles or involves enemies or nuclear weapons or some chemical, issues, chemical weapons, they should do it. They could do it. We should think, not be afraid. I mean, that not be afraid, be ready.
Don't be afraid, be ready, he says. And, the courage that this man is showing in the face of all this is, well, it's admired around the world. What would we do if they used even tactical so-called battlefield nuclear weapons?
Well, Zelensky's right. We all should be worried about it. The Russians have repeatedly used chemical weapons, and the use of tactical nukes is in their doctrine on the bet that we won't respond with our nuclear weapons and start World War III, and they can therefore get away with it. What we should be doing right now, President Biden should have done a month ago, is setting very clear red lines that the use of weapons of mass destruction will mean direct U.S. involvement. We cannot stand by and let that happen. Putin doesn't want to draw the United States into this any more than we want to be in any type of conflict with him. But we have to start deterring him, John. We keep responding and promising tough responses. We have to put deterrence first, and that's what I think would deter him, the threat of direct U.S. involvement.
So you think that veiled threat that he issued is more of a bluff, hoping that we will back off?
I do, but I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't bet too much in Vegas on that. He is all in, and I certainly expect to see chemical weapons. Tactical nukes is a whole other matter, though.
Congressman, we mentioned that you're a former Green Beret commander. You're also a children's book author. Talk about Dawn of the Brave for just a second. Why did you write it?
Well, it's one of a series, John. It's a subscription. You can get it at bravebooks.com, not Amazon. Each month, the kid gets a new book, whether it's conservative traditional values, faith, family, the Constitution. In the case of mine, service to country, coming together as a team and serving a cause higher than yourself. Look, in the wake of what we've seen in Virginia with what's going on in Disney, COVID exposed what's being taught in our schools, we have to take our kids' education back and be part of the solution. That's why I wrote it. And by the way, $15 of every subscription is going to Samaritan's Purse to help Ukrainian refugees. But again, we have to get engaged as parents, and we have to get these traditional values in the minds of our kids at an early age, and service to country is one that's near and dear to me.
Yeah, the reviews I've read from parents have been outstanding. Congressman and author Michael Waltz. Congressman, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.